growing up in suburbia is to grow up with no history. In a consumer society, history is terrible. Everything new is good because everything new is sold. There's a tremendous investment in advertising products, and products must be new. They must transcend and transport you to other worlds, and those are the worlds that children and the young want to go to, and those are the people with money, and those are the people who are leading not by example, but by the wallets and the sweat of their brow and their productivity. But the little children, like me, sitting no longer on the farm and using their imagination and the cycles of the moon and the cycles of the crops and the cycles of their lives and the history of their families and who they knew and the stories and folk tales of their upbringing, all of those are gone. And now we're sitting in our backyards on top of what was farmland but is now completely gone. No longer able to produce our own food, but completely dependent on a system that we didn't design. And told this is great as we spend our lives filling these little empty houses with masses of items. And so as I grew up, history seemed to be cleansed from everything in my daily life. Even when I go back to my house I grew up in, there's a kind of antiseptic horror. The dry-walled walls don't mean anything. They were mass-produced. Everything was mass-produced and slapped together, and we live in it. And it holds together okay, but it wasn't my mother's or grandmother's. We moved away from them. And so we hardly knew them. And the Greek classics were my first introduction to primal history. The idea that there are archetypal stories in the narrative of our lives that public school utterly erases. It's one thing to tell a child, oh, you're going to read some Shakespeare. But children don't know about, in America, about wars. They don't know about the battle for life that was waged over thousands of years in Europe. And if you go to Europe, it's all about history, but if you go to America, it's all about consumption and selling and the denial of death. Because death, no one wants to buy. But in Europe, they're a little less frightened, a little less in terror of the inevitable cycles of life. And I think if I wanted to make a film, I'd make it about that.